네, 여러분들 안녕하세요. 두 번째 연사분을 모셔보도록 할 건데요. 아마 여러분들은 굉장히 궁금해하실 수도 있습니다. 미국 CNN 방송의 도쿄 특파원이시기도 하고요. 그리고 평양을 여러 차례 방문한 몇 안 되는 기자 중에 한 분이신데요. 지금 사실은 저희 북한에 대해서 굉장한 이슈가 되고 있는데 하실 수 있지 않을까 생각이 됩니다. 이분은 지금 맹활약을 하고 있고요. 그 다음에 KRCG TV와 KOMU TV에서도 활동을 하고 계신 리플리 씨 만나보도록 하겠습니다. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Chief. Thank you.
Nice
Good
to meet you. Good to see you.
Should I put this on?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, thank you. Hello.
All right, so I'm June. Very
June,
nice
nice to meet you.
Nice to
Yeah.
meet you. Before we begin our quick interview, can you please say hi to our Facebook Live fans?
Hi, Facebook Live fans. This is only my second Facebook Live,
Oh,
actually.
you've already done it.
I did one from inside North Korea last week, but it only lasted
Wow.
for 45 seconds because the signal wasn't strong enough, unfortunately.
So you did the Facebook Live
Very briefly.
in North Korea.
Yeah, and we had, in 45 seconds, 120,000 people saw it, but then our signals cut out. So we're going to try it again when we go back, and hopefully the signal will be stronger.
So
Yeah.
this is really nothing for you compared to the interview that you did in North Korea, right?
Yeah,
So
well-
how did it feel?
It was neat to be able to try Facebook Live from the DPRK because it just shows, we're trying to go beyond the traditional ways of telling stories from there. So it's not just TV or even internet, but social media is so important.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now in Korea, North Korea is hot issue all over the Korea.
Right.
So you've been to Pyongyang several times. So how did you feel when you first visited Pyongyang?
I've been 10 times, and the first time was back in August of 2014. And I think I felt like most first-time visitors. I was excited to be there. I was nervous. I was just kind of in awe of everything that I was seeing. I felt, I felt like many people do, like you're kind of stepping back into time a little bit. Seeing a city that, its development has been slower paced than a lot, most of the rest of the world. But after 10 trips into the country, I would say that, I still know very little about life there. I feel like I understand so little because we're so controlled in what we're allowed to see. I do think each visit you get a little bit more of a glimpse. The door opens up just a little bit more about life there.
So when you visited Pyongyang, because a lot of people, they can visit, right? So even in Korea, Koreans, they just assume that North Korea will be like. But then actually you've been there, so what's the difference?
In many ways, Korean people, whether they're in the north or the south, I believe they have the same heart. Obviously you share not only a language, but a long history on the peninsula before the last 70 years of division. Obviously, technologically and economically, South Korea is in a much better place than North Korea, which is quite impoverished, even in their capital where they try very hard to have a good living standard. But it's difficult when you're under such heavy sanctions and the government is focusing its priorities on military development, also economic development, but it's hard to have both at the same time. I think one of the biggest misconceptions I had, I thought that maybe North Korean people would be like drones, just kind of marching through the street. I thought maybe the displays of emotion when they saw their leader weren't real. I believe actually the displays of emotion are authentic and genuine. I think they're raised to really idolize these people who are in the top position in their country. So when they see them, the tears and everything you see probably is quite authentic. And they're not drones. They have families. They have friends. They laugh. They sing karaoke if they can go out, after work and have a few too many. So there's similarities to life there, and I think that's what I find. The more that we can see life, I think, is the most interesting part of the country.
Wow, that's very interesting because
Yeah.
I've never been to Pyongyang. And
Yeah.
then just hearing this live story, it makes me like, maybe I should visit sometime.
I hope that you can. I think people from the south should be able to see the north, and I think both sides are hoping for unification someday. But the difficulty is figuring out what that would look like.
Right. So, what do you see? How do you predict the future of North Korea? Because that's the hot issue, hot potato.
It's difficult to predict other than, I was just there last week for their 7th Workers' Party Congress,
Oh, wow.
and it was very clear to me as an observer, and we went inside the Congress briefly. The political system in the country is now rallied and unified behind Kim Jong-un. So all of the purges and all of the rumored turmoil, people that might not have felt a young man should have risen to a post such as his so quickly after just being in the public eye for a year. Those voices are now silenced, whether they're just no longer in Pyongyang or who knows what has happened. We know his uncle was executed as the most high-profile example of what can happen if you're disloyal. But it now seems as if the party is firmly behind this leader, and he's going to move forward with keeping the government in place as it has been, and try to grow the economy, yes, and try to develop a bigger nuclear arsenal. But any drastic changes, we haven't seen any sign of that happening.
So, last question. We are going on a speech, right? So, what are you going to talk about today?
Well, we just had our presentation just now, and I talked about just some of my experiences during 10 trips to the country, and again, it goes back to the fact that even though I've been so many times, I really know so little. I'm rarely allowed to leave the capital city, Pyongyang. I don't know what it's like to grow up and have the portraits of the two leaders in my house and my classroom and my workplace. I don't know what it would have been like to live through the Great Famine. They call it the Arduous March back in the 90s. When I was in high school having a good time in the United States, people were starving to death and people had to eat grass porridge. And I don't understand what it was like to have all of those experiences that make people a North Korean. But I do know they seem to be genuinely, in many cases, proud of their system. They feel that it's the right system, even given the hardship as a result of their government's policies. But that's also something that's because the government tells them that's the right system, and there are no dissenting voices.
So, I shouldn't ask more questions because we have time limit, but I want to ask questions.
No problem.
What would be the solution that you think would be the best to resolve those issues between governments and...
If I had the answer to that, I'd be in diplomacy. I know that U.S. lawmakers are convinced that sanctions are going to work, but North Korea has lived under so many sanctions for so many years, and they claim sanctions will have no impact on their activities or their feelings towards their government, no matter how difficult things get, because they have in the past been so difficult before. Diplomacy is a challenge. Obviously, there have been attempts at talks, promises made, promises broken. I have found from my own small-scale interaction in the country that if I go in with respect, if I follow the country's laws, and I go in without a bias but a desire to learn and to observe, that has allowed, just on a very small scale, the relationship of journalist and government to go on now for 2 years. 2 years of going in and out of the country. But on a bigger scale, there's so many issues that have to be worked out. And for the sake of the North Korean people and the world, I certainly hope that there is a solution, because the people there are smart. People that are scientists that are developing, even though they're isolated, technologically, they're still making strides. People that speak better English than I do, that would be great translators at the UN.
Right.
People that have a lot to offer, young people who have such potential, and right now they're kept apart from the world, and that's a real tragedy. So, while I don't know what the answer is, I certainly hope that there is a solution, so that you do get to go visit the North, and it would be an incredible moment to see the Korean Peninsula become one again.
Right.
Because it's heartbreaking right now. Families are divided. Kids who decide they want to come here, they run away. They leave behind parents who have to then answer to their government and answer to the authorities and their own hearts. Missing their kids that they can never have communication with. It's a real tragedy.
Wow, that's something that we're going to look forward to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, and we are very happy to have you here.
Well, wonderful to be here with you.
Good luck.
Yeah, Facebook Lives. We got to do this, right?
Yep. There you go, Asian peace.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, okay,
All
take
right,
care. All right, thanks. Okay.
Great.
Bye.
네, 여러분들 윌리플리 씨였고요. 여러분들 지금 어떤 내용이신지 대충 알고 계시죠? 바로 노스 코리아, 북한에 지금 10번 정도 방문을 하셨고, 사실 북한을 보면서 진짜 다양한 지금 생각들을 가지고 계신데, 여러분들도 한번 이 기회에 북한에 대해서 실상이 무엇인지, 그리고 북한에 대해서 여러분들이 조금 더 관심을 갖는 계기가 되시길 바라겠습니다. 자, 여러분들 저희 다음 스케줄이 몇 시죠? 세 번째? 바로 5분 후에. 여러분들 5분 후에 저희 세 번째 연사 만나 뵙도록 할 건데요. 여러분들 조금만 기다려 주시기 바랍니다. You are now watching 2016 Asian Leadership Conference. Thank you.